All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really going to zero in on something that's super important in the software world, the test maturity model. You might hear it called TMM for short.
Yeah, TMM. It's basically like a yardstick for, well, figuring out how serious a company is about their software quality.
Not just like, squashing bugs here and there.
Right, it's way bigger than that. It's like
Yeah.
a whole sophisticated process to make sure software is really working well.
This deep dive, we're going to try to equip you to actually understand how mature a company's testing process really is and even more importantly, how they can level up, right?
Absolutely. You can really tell a lot about a company's commitment to quality by looking at their TMM, where they stand.
Okay, so TMM, this whole idea, like where did it come from?
Well, the Illinois Institute of Technology, they're the brains behind it. And it's kind of based on another model, the Capability Maturity Model, CMM.
Oh,
Yeah, and CMM is like the big picture of software development maturity, the whole thing. But TMM, it zooms in specifically on the testing part.
got it. So like a more focused lens.
Exactly. And companies, they can use it by itself or, along with other improvement systems they might have.
So what's the basic like structure of TMM? What do we need to understand?
Okay, so there's two main parts. There's this 5-level framework. It shows like the different stages of testing maturity.
Okay.
And then there's this assessment model. It helps figure out where a company actually sits on those levels.
All right, let's bring it down then. Let's start with level 1, initial. Like what's the big deal here? What does it even mean?
Level 1, this is the starting line. The goal, really, it's just to have software that, actually runs.
Doesn't crash immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't usually see defined processes. They're often lacking resources, tools, even trained staff. And forget about quality checks before they release it.
So you just kind of like send it out there.
Pretty much. It's kind of like building a house without a blueprint. You might end up with something, but the chances of like big problems later on.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what's the jump to level 2 to
Yeah.
find what changes?
So level 2, the big thing is they start to see testing and debugging as like two separate things.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, testing, it usually happens after the coding's done, and the goal is to show that the software matches, what they wanted it to do in the first place. This is when they start using like basic testing methods.
So it's more deliberate, right?
Way more. And what's cool is that by separating those two things, testing and fixing, it actually can prevent a lot of rework later.
Yeah.
They're not just constantly putting out fires.
Right. Getting ahead of it.
Okay.
Okay. So level 3, integrated. This is where it starts sounding like more serious.
Oh, for sure. Level 3, this is when testing becomes part of the whole software development process.
Like from the beginning.
From the very beginning. They're thinking about testing right when they start figuring out what the software should do. They'll have like actual test objectives that are tied to those requirements, and they might even have a whole team just for testing.
Wow, okay.
It's not just about having testers anymore. It's about them being a part of the team, like from day one, having a voice.
Yeah, so testing's not just a reaction anymore. It's
Yeah.
proactive.
Totally.
All right, take us to level 4, management and measurement. This sounds kind of intimidating.
It's where things get really, well, organized. This is when they bring in a real system for measuring the testing process.
So data, lots of data.
Data's key. They're tracking everything. And the cool thing here is they start to see reviews at all different stages of development as like a form of testing too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they start building these databases of tests that they can use again and again, especially when they make changes to the software.
Makes sense, like a library of tests.
Yeah, exactly. And they're really careful about logging defects, any problems they find. And they categorize them by how serious they are. The motto here is, you can't improve what you don't measure.
Can't argue with that.
Mm.
Okay, so final level, the peak. Level 5, optimized. What's happening here?
At level 5, it's all about constantly improving the testing process.
Always getting better.
Always tweaking, always refining. They're watching how effective their testing is, how much it costs, always fine-tuning their approach. They're super focused on preventing defects in the first place, reusing processes that work, and they're using like really advanced tools to help them design their tests and keep track of problems. It's a nonstop cycle of learning and adapting.
So, okay, back to CMM and TMM. We talked about it a little bit before, but just to be super clear for everyone listening, what's the main difference between the two?
Sure. So CMM, it's looking at the maturity of all the processes a company uses to develop software, like the whole shebang.
All enchilada.
Yeah. Exactly. But TMM, it's zeroed in on just the testing process and how that contributes to, making sure the software is good.
Got it. So for everyone listening, understanding the TMM, it gives you this really great framework for understanding just how seriously a company takes software quality.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to remember, it's not like you reach this perfect level and you're done. It's a journey,
Right,
right?
for sure. And that kind of brings up an interesting question for you listening. Thinking about these 5 levels, where do you think most companies actually are right now?
Yeah, that is a good question.
And what do you think might be the biggest thing holding them back from getting to a higher level? It's something to think about.
Something to ponder for sure.
Definitely.
Thanks for diving in with us today.
You got it.